Hi guys, and welcome to Nerdy Jess. Welcome back for those of you who have visited with me before. So this is going to be my first venture into a budgeting video. Full transparency, I did film a video yesterday setting up what I'm going to be sharing with you today. And the reason I chose to redo that video is because through the editing process, it really was disjointed. It was all over the place, which I expected it to be, but it was enough so that I really felt like, to be fair to everybody, it would be better for me to walk you through what I went through yesterday and give you insight into what I was thinking and why I made certain decisions, rather than having you sit through me going through all of it, because it's kind of painful to watch. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Before I start anything, please do hit the like and the subscribe button if you like what you see. I also do planner videos, and right now I only have one speed art video up, but I will probably be adding a few more over the course of the year. Any of the supplies that you see here today, you can, with the exception of like the planner itself, you should be able to purchase on my Amazon affiliate store, which is at nerdyjess.com. So now that I've got all of that out of the way, why don't we get to the point of this whole video, which is budgeting, why I'm budgeting, why I'm doing it on YouTube, and so on and so forth, and kind of show you how I've set up my year for 2020. All right, so let's get to it. We're going to start with what I've done in the past to give you an idea of where my personal issues are, where money is concerned, and what I've done, and so on and so forth. So this notebook, which is just a grid notebook, I purchased on Etsy a while back. I will link the shop below for my A5TN. The very first video that I posted a few months ago to YouTube was about my current planner setup for 2019, and at that time my intention was to use my A5. In part, the reason for it existing was to use it for budgeting and money things. So I did in October sit down and set up a budget, and also one for November, and you will see why I'm hoping that YouTube will help me with accountability. So the way that I had it set up initially in my first real attempt at budgeting in this manner was on the very first page of the notebook, or the insert, I guess you could say, I put a list of my sinking funds and a list of debts that we owe. These sinking funds are, so if you don't know what a sinking fund is, I don't know who coined the phrase. I learned it from Dave Ramsey, but a sinking fund is a fund that you're saving for some kind of event or bill that you know is going to be coming up in the future, and you just save a little bit at a time to go towards paying those things, rather than having to figure out how to budget a sudden expense or even an expected expense. That can be, like, as an example, I know that every year, the day after Christmas, my Amazon Prime payment comes out of my bank account. So if I were to break that up over the course of a whole year, I would only have to set aside, $10 or $15 a month in order to make that payment at the end of the year. So what that means is that I'm not looking at $119 that I have to make sure that I have available to me in my bank account after the Christmas season out of the paycheck that comes during that time. So I don't know if that made sense, but you'll see kind of as we go along and look at all of this. So these are some sinking funds that I had initially done back in October, and debt lists that I had done back in October. Some of the debt has actually changed. And here you can see the way that I was setting up my monthly budget is I would list my sinking funds first and how much I wanted to budget for them. And then I would go through, and this is imperative to the way that our money is. I would budget per paycheck. There's a YouTuber named Budget Mom that does this. She also sells a planner that has everything pre-drawn out for you and whatnot. I haven't really delved into how she does things, but this is how I was doing it before. I would actually budget per paycheck and break down my known expenses that I would have, and then all of that. Anything that says sub or subscript, those were subscriptions or things that automatically come out of the account. So then I had my second paycheck. And then one of the things that I decided to do this time around is I went ahead and purchased a set of friction pens that actually are multi-pens. And these are erasable ink because I prefer to write in pen, and this will allow me to make changes because it gets messy if you keep having to white out and then rewrite things, as things may shift or alter throughout the month. And then I also did not think to leave myself room for expenses, unexpected expenses or unbudgeted expenses. Like my other half, Charlie, went ahead and we talked about it, but he's subscribed to this service called Shadowblade, which allows him to use their computer systems from his computer to run certain programs so that he didn't have to purchase a really expensive computer. Things like that change. So I wanted to make sure that I figured out a way to leave myself wiggle room. And then I did do it for November, but as you can tell, I didn't do anything else. I wrote it all in here. It looks really cute. I wrote it all in here, and that's as far as I went. So we're going to go over today. The goal is not to go over and do the monthly side of things. It will be a separate video that I will probably be filming here in the next week or so. But today we're going to talk about what are my goals for 2020? How am I going to approach those goals? And what can I do to reach those goals? And hopefully through the process of going through this and showing you what I've come up with for myself, the idea is that perhaps it could help you figure out something that works for you and yours. I think that budgeting is an interesting subject because it is so unique to everyone, because everyone's family is slightly different. Everyone's spending habits are different. You know, it even dependent on where you are geographically can change where your priorities lie, you know, so things like that. So why don't I go ahead and show you what I did yesterday in my budgeting journal for the year 2020. Okay, so this is my budgeting journal, or not journal, but I'm sorry, planner. And this is an Erin Condren Deluxe Monthly. I think that's how it's either Deluxe Monthly or Monthly Deluxe. I think it's Deluxe Monthly. All right, so this originally I was going to be using for my YouTube planner, but realized that it was overkill. I didn't really need it for that purpose. So I did actually remove all the months previous. So I had October, November, and December in here as well. I went ahead and took those out. As a result of removing those things, I do have some extra notes pages located where they would not be. Generally, you would have this page, and then these note pages would not be here before the start of the month. So I just want you to be aware of that, is that mine is a little bit different because I took some pages out. I have not decided yet what I would like to do with the year at a glance. I'm not sure what I want to do with this just yet. I don't have very many bills that come out like on the 15th. Like I'll have bills that come out somewhere within the week of the 15th. So I haven't really decided how I want to do it. I know a lot of people track paydays and things like that. So I may do that. It just depends. I'm going to give that a little bit more thought before jumping in. And also I'm going to be giving this a little bit more thought before jumping in. I'm going to see what other people are doing and see if anybody inspires me to use this in a specific manner. All right. So the first thing that I did for the year 2020, and I got this idea with this up here about net worth and everything from another YouTuber. I will link her channel above. I went through and figured out what our net worth is. And the way that I did this is that my net worth is my debt less the amount of savings. So right now I have a negative net worth of $32,834.37. Now that's nauseating because that's how much debt I have. And I will explain my debt in just a few minutes. And then I went ahead and listed my sinking funds. The categories that I chose for my sinking funds is an emergency fund. An emergency fund is going to be money set aside in the event that something catastrophic happens, by financially catastrophic happens, and like someone loses a job, or, we have a major medical issue in the family, something that really big happens that could upset the way that we are able to live, our living experience, I guess you could say. Amazon Prime is a sinking fund. Car maintenance is a sinking fund. Car registration and inspection, I know what month this is due in. It's due in March for me. Josh travel. So my oldest son is from my first marriage, and his dad and I, thankfully, are on our very good terms. But his dad is military and will be changing duty stations to Hawaii. And the cost to get my son there to visit with his dad is, plane tickets to Hawaii are expensive. So I spoke with my ex-husband, and he and I talked about it, and I offered to assist in paying for that so that he could spend time with his dad, because his dad has been very gracious and has never been late on child support, so on and so forth. So I wanted to make sure I could help with that. Clothes, exactly what it says. School supplies, medical. So medical is kind of an interesting sinking fund category for me. Medical can do anything from cover medications that we all need monthly to co-pays for the doctor. Heaven forbid some kind of major medical issue where we have to pay a large chunk of our deductible, things like that. That's what that's for. Now, I am going to try to budget in a medical expense to cover known costs for medication monthly, so that I'm not using the sinking fund every month. I want that to be more of a savings event thing rather than, I'm going to fill it up and empty it every month. The vet, we have a lot of animals. We need to have something set aside in case we need to see a doctor for one of them. My cat just recently got sick, and thank God my dad was here, because we would not have been able to afford that and the $600 repair to my car. So I want to make sure I have that set aside. Kids' college is pretty understandable. Gifts. So the gifts section is going to be for anything that's like birthdays, anniversaries, things like that. Things outside of Christmas, which is usually our major gift giving. And then, of course, a Christmas fund. For debt, I went through yesterday and I did get the actual numbers for everything that I owe so that I would have a correct total. These numbers are all real. Like I've said previously, none of these things are made up. This is actually my real life. It honestly makes me a little uncomfortable sharing some of this stuff, but I think that transparency where budgeting is concerned, when people are watching and trying to learn, is really important. I know that when I watched other YouTubers trying to figure out how I wanted to budget, my preference was to actually watch the YouTubers that shared their real totals, because it helped me to see, okay, well, they make this much. This is how they're doing it. This is what they're prioritizing. And I really, really like that. So my debt is as follows. I do have an Ulta card. My Ulta card is only open and only carries a balance because I am attempting to build credit. And that is the only reason why I have an Ulta card at this time. So I spoke with Charlie yesterday, and I think we're going to go ahead and pay that off and close and leave a zero balance on it until I need something specific and get it, and then pay it off slowly, but just at least get that balance down. My student loans, I have 13 plus grand in student loans. UTD, University of Texas at Dallas, is a school that I attend, and I owe them just over $1,200 for some tuition that I didn't have covered with loans. My iPhone and my iWatch, I just recently upgraded, and this is how much I owe for each of them. So the thing about these two items is that they actually have a set amount that's added onto our monthly phone bill. So they're kind of already paid every month regardless, because I pay them with our cell phone bill. I'll get into that, potentially get into that a little bit more later. And if not in this video, it will become more relevant when I'm doing my monthly budgeting. And then these items here are, this is money that I owe individuals in my life. Now, having said all of that, some of these things are very, very old. And I just want it to be said that I am not of the mind that I go and borrow money from friends and family. These all have stories attached to them that are very specific. My dad actually does not want me to pay him back, but I just feel like I really should. So that's on there. The green dots next to some of these items indicate which items I would like to use a cash envelope for. On the next page, it gets a little bit more detailed about that, and I'll talk more in depth about cash envelopes and what my plan is with that. All right, so I used this page also to go ahead and identify and define some goals for the year. So these are yearly goals. I would like to pay off at least 1/8 of our debt, which would mean that I would need to pay $342.02 a month towards our overall debt in order to reach this goal. Now, having said that, it's very important when you look at these things to understand that some of these items carry an interest rate. So that means in order for this $342 is specific to the principal. So that does not mean that I can just pay $342.02 a month against all of these debts and reach my goal of 1/8 of my debt, because these things are going to continue to gain interest. That means that I have to pay that amount directly to the principal, or the amount of money that is the actual bill and not the interest itself. So having said that, I did not calculate all of that in here. It's something I already know. I already have recorded elsewhere the interest rates for my student loans and so on and so forth. So this is just towards principal. Having said that, this realistically is going to be closer to probably $400. I likely would pay about $500 a month total towards debt in order to exceed this goal. My next goal for the year is I would like to have $1,200 in savings by December 1st in 2020 for Christmas presents. And I went ahead and divided that by 11 since I want to have it by the 1st of December. And that means I need to put in $110 a month into savings for Christmas presents. Now, that $110 will exceed the $1,200 a month. And my intention is, because I rounded up to the nearest dollar, my intention is that anything that is over that $1,200 mark will roll into Christmas funds for 2021. So I also, by the end of the year, would like to have at least $1,000 put back in our emergency fund specifically. And that means I need to put, and again, I rounded up to the nearest dollar. I need to put $84 a month into that fund. The biggest goal, the most important goal about budgeting for me in the year 2020 is that I need to implement a budget and stick to it, which means I need accountability. So that's part, like I said in the beginning, that's part of why I'm creating videos about this and sharing all this personal stuff with you, because it's a lot different lying to myself when I sit down at my desk and have a piece of paper or justifying to myself why I spent the money that I did, than getting on here and doing that in front of 200 plus people. So my hope is that you guys are going to keep me honest with myself. So that's the basic breakdown for 2020. And then on the next page, I did get more detailed. So on this page, let's see. Let me zoom you guys out just a little bit. Okay. So on this page, I went ahead and wrote down in ascending order, so from smallest to largest debt, what my debts are, what the minimum payments are, and then if all I did was pay the minimum payments, again, interest is not included in this calculation. If all I did was pay the minimum payments, how much time it would take me to pay those debts off. So what ended up happening is that with my Ulta card, the minimum is actually lower than $40 a month, but I don't pay less than 40. I usually pay about 50 a month. Um, so I went ahead and just said the minimum of 40. It would take me 6 months to pay off that debt if I paid $40 a month. My watch and so on and so forth. So you can kind of see here the double starred thing here, my UTD. I could not get in touch with the representative that I needed to speak to about this to make a payment plan. So I just set it at $100 at this time. And then these here that are also starred, because they are personal debts, meaning that it's money that I owe to an individual, there is no like required minimum payment. In other words, I'm not going to, if all I can do is $10 that month, I'm not going to, there's no interest involved. There's not going to be any penalties for late fees, so on and so forth. So I set them to $25 each, which gives me a total of $125 a month towards personal debts. And I feel like at least at this time that that's an amount that I can handle. So, but that means that these are also more flexible. So total, if I were to pay minimums as stated, it would be $467.03, which exceeds the amount that I had talked about just a few moments ago, and should cover any kind of interest that's being added. Now, cash envelopes and a secondary bank account. Okay. One of the things that I would like to do is to make it inconvenient for myself to spend money when I don't need to, meaning that inconvenient to spend money for things that are not necessary, like inconvenient to buy stickers. God help me, that hurts. So what I decided I wanted to do is that we actually have two bank accounts. We have our main account where all of our pay and everything gets deposited. And then we have a secondary account at a local branch because we use USAA, which doesn't have a local branch in our area. We also have a secondary account with a bank that's local so that if we need to, we can actually go in and, speak to a human being and deal directly with the bank. So what I decided I wanted to do is I wanted to break things up into two categories. I wanted some things to go into cash that will go into our safe at home. And then I wanted some things to go into our secondary bank account because of the nature of what they are. So for cash envelopes, I wanted this. These are just my cash envelope categories. So they include monthly cash envelopes expenses as well. So our gasoline for Charlie and myself, my beauty for my nails, rent because I prefer to pay, we live with my father and I prefer to pay him rent in cash. The amount that I owe my university for tuition because I can go pay that in cash at the bursar's office. The money that goes towards the debts that I owe for individuals. Emergency fund money because cold hard cash in an emergency is really important to have. And if for some reason we cannot use the cash and have to use a card, it's very simple to go deposit it into our local bank and it's available that day. Car maintenance, because again, just having the cash works just as well as having a card. Car registration and inspection. This one is going to be a little bit iffy. I need to see how this one plays out in order to make it work. Worst case scenario, since I pulled it out in cash, again, is that I go and deposit said cash and go ahead and use my card same day. Clothes, because I can always buy clothes with cash. It's harder to overspend when you use cash. The idea is that I would not, when I went to go shopping for clothes, I wouldn't even take my card with me. I would just take the cash that I have allotted to purchase clothes with so that I cannot spend over budget because it doesn't exist. That also means that I'm taking Apple Pay off of my phone, meaning that I'm going to take all of my bank accounts and unlink them to that off of my phone and off of my watch because it makes it too easy. It's become really, really simplistic to purchase things. Like I don't even have to have my card in my possession to buy stuff anymore. I can use my cell phone. And while that is super convenient and awesome for someone like me who has no willpower and no discipline where money is concerned, it is dangerous. So I'm going to be taking that stuff away from myself. I'm grounding myself. School supplies are pretty self-explanatory. Once a year, we have to go buy new school supplies. And sometimes during the course of the year, the kids need more paper or they need more pencils. So that's why I want to have a cash envelope that's set aside for that. Secondary bank account, Amazon Prime. Because Amazon Prime is a payment that comes out automatically out of whatever account that I have attached to for that specific thing, I want to put it in a secondary bank account and just have that sitting, waiting, and ready. For my son's travel, so anything that I save that can help offset the cost of his travel expenses for his dad, I want to keep in our secondary bank account because I'm going to need to transfer that money to him. So there's no reason to keep that in cash. It just makes more sense to go ahead and keep it in the bank account and transfer it over. Medical expenses, secondary bank account. Our medical stuff, if I do end up having to use it to buy medication or to pay copays, all of those things are a lot more simplistic done with my card and my bank account. So I just would rather keep that there. And the kids' college fund. I don't need to keep a kids' college fund in cash. It can stay in the bank account. Eventually, I would like to open up some kind of an account that will, gain some interest over time to help grow that even larger. Now, having said all of this, some of my personal individual debts are several $1,000s. I do not want to keep that amount of money in cash in our house, safe or not. I'm advertising it on the internet. It makes me nervous. So once these cash envelopes get to be a certain amount, I will probably go ahead and put them into the secondary bank account or pay off a chunk of it at that time to those individuals. Like, I won't let these exceed a certain amount of money. I haven't decided what that is yet, or I would have shared it with you. So that is my goal for 2020 so far, is how I have things set up, what I was thinking while I was doing this. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I am, like I said, the idea is that I will be fully transparent with you. I will share with you my thought process, what I'm going through, what works and doesn't work. A lot of these things look really great on paper. A lot of these things make so much sense logically. But these things, it's really important to understand as I go through this journey, if you're going to follow along with me, these things will likely change or fluctuate over time, because putting it down on paper and looking at it sounds great, but in application, in the reality of living day to day, I don't know how it's going to work for my family yet. So there will be changes. In other words, none of these things outside of the amounts are set in stone. I have to remain flexible, and I'm telling you that in large part to remind myself as well. When you go and you do something like this, when you do a budget like this, I feel like it's really important, kind of like almost like a diet. You've got to allow yourself a little bit of wiggle room. Like when I go through and I do my monthly budget, I know already that I'm going to put in a certain amount of money for myself and my other half and my kids that allow us to go and do fun things or do things that we probably shouldn't be spending money on, because if we don't, it is much more likely that we're going to make a really dumb decision later on. And, similarly to like binging on food because you've been denying yourself for too long. So it's all a balancing act. One of the things that I did do to make it easier for me when I go to budget for the month is I use this little insert. I purchased this from Erin Condren. It's like a habit tracker insert. I went ahead and repurposed it so that it would be for bills that come out automatically, and then my sinking funds with the amounts that I need to actually pay each month, so that I can just, remove this and then put it into the month that I'm planning for, budgeting for. So I have it right there, and it's done in wet erase markers, so it won't transfer to my paper. But I have the ability to change it easily. I can clean this off and write on it as many times as I want. So I have my due dates here. I have what the bill is, and then I also have the amounts, and then I have the total of automatic bills that come out and this is on a monthly basis. And then on the back, I've listed my sinking funds, any of the sinking funds where I have a goal set and I need a certain amount of money to go into it, and what they are. So this is going to go with me month to month. So I'm not constantly having to flip back and look at things. It's like almost like a key for me to be able to do things easily. So the next video that I make, unless you guys request something else, will be about my January monthly budget. So the way that I'm going to format these is I am going to budget per paycheck. So I will not be budgeting a full month in one video necessarily. That may happen sometimes just because, maybe I am in the mood to do it. I don't know. But I much would rather prefer to budget out paycheck to paycheck. And again, that may change. I may find that budgeting the entire month is better for me than budgeting just one paycheck at a time. So we'll see what happens. But I did have to go in and white some things out. Like I said, I had been using it for YouTube. And I have some stickers from Sticker Planet that I got ages ago, specifically to use for color coding and budgeting. And I'm going to mark all of my bills when they come out, not on the expected due date, but the day they actually come out, that are automatic in this green color. And then any subsequent spending I will categorize at that time when I do a check-in. I do plan on doing weekly check-ins. I do not know if I will film every weekly check-in, but I will attempt to if that's something that you guys want to see. For those of you that aren't familiar with that terminology, a weekly check-in is basically where you go and at the end of every week, you go back and you look and you see where you spent your money. It's kind of like balancing your checkbook, if you will, but instead you're balancing your budget, making sure that the cash that you put in your envelopes matches up with the spending that you've done out of them, and making sure that any of the automatic bills that you have actually cleared your account, stuff like that. So it is a really, really, really important aspect of budgeting and accountability for your budget. But because it is a weekly thing and I have so many other videos that I do every week right now, I'm not sure if I'll be able to fit those in, but I will do my best. So that really concludes everything that I did yesterday in my first video. I apologize. It was a disjointed mess. I kept changing my mind and having to pause the video and go look up numbers and make phone calls. So I think that this probably, at least initially for the introduction of what I want to do, is going to be the best way to approach this. I do not intend at this time to purchase any kind of sticker kits or anything for budgeting because right now I'm still figuring it out. I don't even know what format I want to use for myself, so I don't want to spend any money. Beyond which, there's something odd about the idea of spending money to make my budget look pretty. I don't know. It sits funny with me. I think it looks gorgeous when everybody else does it. And my friend Caroline at Princess Honey, her channel is here. She actually has a shop on Etsy, linked down here, that she makes really cute budgeting kits for Happy Planner, and she's about to release some for the Erin Condren, and some adorable cash envelopes. So I probably will eventually end up doing that, but at this time, I don't know, I'm too indecisive yet about how I want to set everything up and format it. So that's it. Sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but I wanted to make sure that I got this out there that was in a way that was cohesive enough so that people could follow along. Again, please feel free to ask any questions below and I will answer to the best of my ability. I really have been enjoying talking to all of you guys and all of the support. As of this morning, we're over 230 subscribers. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. It feels really good. And I will catch you guys later. So good luck with your budget. I hope that everything works out for you. Happy planning and peace.